This is the Renault Clio RS 18 F1 EDC. It's a rather long name for a car this size, and I've been lucky enough to spend 12 months with it, which I'm going to tell you all about. But before I do that, let's go into what makes this Clio so much more special than the RS models that came before it. So essentially what we have here is the Clio 220 Trophy, which has the 162 kilowatt engine, but this is called the F1 because it gets the black and yellow color scheme from the 2018 Renault Sport Formula 1 car. That includes the blacked out badges, the yellow accent on the bumper and on the side, and these pretty cool 18-inch alloy wheels with the really great Michelin Pilot Supersport tires. Inside the door panel, you'll see on the lining there is a plaque telling you which number of the limited units this is. This is 227. And at the back you'll get a really nice set of Akrapovic exhausts, which was also on the 220 Trophy. So the cabin, it's been a very comfortable place to spend 12 months with. These bucket seats can be a bit stiff, but they really keep the body in place, especially if you want to go fast around corners. What I enjoyed most about the cabin is the fact that the paddle shifters are column mounted and not mounted to the steering wheel. It made it much easier to use on a daily basis. So as far as I know, the Clio was one of the pioneers for the touchscreen infotainment system, especially in a car as mass produced as this, but it has aged quite a bit. The last thing I want to talk about is the RS monitor, and I think this is probably the best part of this infotainment screen because it gives you everything you need to know about the car when you're driving it. It gives you your brake pressure, your coolant temperature, intake temperature, turbo pressure, but the thing I love most about this system is definitely the traction slip. I mean, if you want to impress a lady on a date night, try getting that to 5%, you've sealed the bag. That's the interior. Next thing I want to talk about is the engine. Under the bonnet we have a 1.6 litre turbocharged engine pushing 162 kilowatts and 280 Newton meters. This is actually an engine that Renault sourced from Nissan. You'd find it in cars like the Nissan Juke. I think it's time to get behind the wheel and see what it's been like to drive this car for the past 12 months. The first thing I have to talk about is the comfort. Comfort levels in the ride, not that great. Any slight bump in the road gets shot right through the suspension, through the seat and into your body. You feel every single impact, every single bump. It makes driving this car on a daily basis a little bit unpleasant. But what I can say is on the plus side that this chassis is very dynamic. It's going to be quite a challenge to find a car in this segment, hard hatch in this segment that can corner like this car can. It's very sharp, it's very focused, it's very poised. Almost little to no understeer, which is surprising because it doesn't have any clever differential or anything. It relies solely on mechanical grip, and obviously those Michelins I mentioned earlier, they are very capable. They don't wear that much. I think I've still got about 80% life on these tires. On average, I landed up with a fuel consumption of about just over 10 liters per 100 km, which is a lot for a 1.6 litre engine. But you know, they say 1.6 litre, but it's probably a very massive turbo because this thing pushes 162 kilowatts, and it's not a value that they lied about. I think it really is that, because through the mid-range it's pretty decent. But the big weak point of this car is without a doubt the EDC, the 6-speed dual clutch transmission. And the reason why I say that is because the car tends to hold its gear a lot and it revs itself out quite a bit, and it's very, very slow with downshifts. Altogether, it feels like the transmission isn't able to communicate with the engine well. Renault said they're only bringing 65 of these models down to South Africa. I don't think they've sold them all yet, so you can probably still get your hands on one if you want. Unfortunately, everything I have said about this Clio RS 18 F1 EDC has limited value because the next generation Clio is pretty much around the corner. But that being said, this car is an absolute mountain pass conqueror, and in its segment, I think it is easily the most dynamic. There was a lot we were cut out from. The new Fiesta ST isn't going to come here anymore. The Corsa OPC didn't come here at all. All we have is the Polo GTI and the Mini Cooper JCW. But there are a lot of issues that I have with it, as I've highlighted, and I really hope that the next generation Clio RS fixes those issues, because this is a badge that has a very dedicated following, especially here in South Africa, and they need to make sure that they retain that fan base at all costs.